Okay, it is Monday night, the 1st of January of 2024. I've already done 2 previous sessions. One was redundant. The next advanced the schedule for the NGC series from 600 to 650. And because the battery's holding up pretty good on the Handycam tonight, and I'm having a really good dark sky, I thought I would do a trifecta and see if we can't squeeze in the NGC. I think it's going to be the 700 to 750 series. See, no wonder I get screwed up. Anyway, this is NGC 891, that beautiful edge-on presented galaxy on the border of Andromeda and Perseus. We are going to move forward with the NGC 700 to 749 series in tow. NGC 700 is a galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 14.4, 8.8 by 0.7 arc-minute size, parent size lenticular spiral class O, 218 million light-years distant. It's at plus 36 degrees, and yes, the right ascension is 152.16. That seems to be about right. However, we may have skipped a series, but I don't care. I will put them in order as they are released, if indeed I have skipped 650 to 700, which I think I just did. Why, dotage. Oh, this could be a special galaxy. NGC 701, galaxy in Cetus, magnitude 12.2. Obliquely presented 2.6 by 1.4 arc-minute spiral with a bar 81 million light-years distance. We're at minus 10 degrees. And that is a very nice look, with hints of texture. How about that? NGC 702 is another galaxy in Cetus, magnitude 13.1, 1.5 by 1 arc-minute spiral with a bar. Well, this has got complexity. A lower B, C, and a P. 471 million light-years distant. Puts this at about 200,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus 4 and change degrees, 1 hour 51 minutes and 19 seconds in right ascension. We've headed on north to NGC 703, a galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 13.3, 1.2 by 0.9 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, 227 million light years distant. We're at about plus 36 degrees and change in declination. There seems to be a number of galaxies in that field. And I was right, there is another galaxy, NGC 704, and Andromeda as well, magnitude 14, smallish, 0.6 by 0.4 arc-minute, spiral with peculiarities, 213 million light years distant, plus 36 and change in terms of declination. Let's see if there's another one. NGC 705 is another galaxy in that group. Andromeda, magnitude 13.6, far more distended, 1.2 by 0.3 arc-minutes, which is a 4-to-1 aspect ratio. Spiral with a lowercase a, 206 million light-years distant, plus 36 and change degrees. And because I did not encounter a galaxy group like this in the last series, I know that this is an original series of the NGC Night Sky Study sequence that I'm pursuing at this time, which makes me feel a little more positive about the rest of this project, despite the fact that it's about 22 degrees in temperature out. Okay, I do want to point out that it's about 8:30 in the evening, that I am looking to the west because most everything is sidereally progressed, which is my big concern for this cycle of observations, that I make sure I can continuously grasp the NGC series. This is NGC 706, a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 12.5, about the right size for that magnitude, 1.9 by 1.5 arc-minute, spiral with a lowercase c, 223 million light-years distant, puts it at about 125,000 light-years in diameter. We're at plus 6 and change in terms of declination. NGC 707 is another galaxy in Cetus, magnitude 14, 1.3 by 0.9 arc-minute lenticular spiral, 243 million light years distance, about 90,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus 8.5 degrees in declination. And this one's giving quite an edgy-on presentation, despite the fact it is 1.3 by 0.9 arc minutes in size. NGC 708 is a galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 12.7 and largish for that magnitude, 3 by 2.5 arc minutes. It is an elliptical of class 2, 215 million light years distant. This one is larger than the Andromeda Galaxy, and as an elliptical, it must be very massive and is quite luminous at magnitude 12.7. We are at 36 degrees and change in declination. The view is quite good. It is obviously another member of that galaxy group that we picked out earlier. And if all of the same distance, that is the primary galaxy in the group that is at the bottom of the gravity well for that system. Well, it's possible this galaxy group is a different one in Andromeda, because this is NGC 709 and it was just a click away from 708. This galaxy's magnitude 14.3 is presenting obliquely with a perfect 2-to-1 ratio of 1 to 0.5 arc minutes, simply classified as a spiral, 158 million light years distant, probably about 65,000 light years in diameter. But it is further away from the group, and that may very well be the same group that we saw earlier. I'll have to do some research on that, and if I don't, well, maybe you will. NGC 710 is also potentially a member of that group. Just a click away, it's a galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 13.7, almost face-on, 1.3 by 1.2 arc-minute spiral with a lowercase c, 276 million light years distant, puts it at about 90,000 light years in diameter. We are at plus 36 and change in declination again. And the group now seems to be up here, whereas it shifted over there, so there could have been some issues with how Dreyer compiled the catalog. NGC 711 is conveniently located in Aries. Magnitude 13.1, 1.6 by 0.7 arc-minute lenticular spiral, class O, 217 million light years distance, probably about 110 to 115,000 light years in diameter, pretty big for a lenticular. We're at plus 17.5 degrees, and we haven't reached hour 2 yet in terms of right ascension. NGC 712 is another galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 12.8, 1.3 by 1 arc-minute lenticular spiral, 242 million light years distant. We're at plus almost 37 degrees in declination. Nice field of stars, and I just may beginning to get some blockage of the objective lens by the rift rise of Penty. NGC 713 is a galaxy in Cetus, magnitude 15, 1 by 0.3 arc minutes, so well aspected, spiral with a lowercase b, 231 million light years distant. I'd say this one's probably about 80,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus 9 and change degrees with a right ascension of 155.21. There's a brighter galaxy up towards the upper right of the screen. Back north, up into Andromeda for NGC 714 galaxy, magnitude 13.1, well aspected at 1.5 by 0.4 arc-minute spiral with a lowercase a, 204 million light years distant, puts it at about the size that I used to think the Milky Way was, about 100,000 light years in diameter. We are at plus 36 and change in declination, although I think we've regressed a little bit in right ascension. Very interesting. NGC 715 is a galaxy in Cetus, magnitude 15, 2-to-1 ratio at 0.8 to 0.4 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase b, 249 million light years distant, about 80,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus almost 13 degrees in declination, and 153.12 in right ascension. It looks like there's some kind of cloud encroachment up there you can see in the right-hand side of the screen, but the galaxy is on the darker side, which is nice. Back up into Aries at plus almost 13 degrees for NGC 716 galaxy, magnitude 12.9, 1.8 by 0.8 arc minute spiral with the bar, 207 million light years distant. That is giving kind of a barry sense to its core, and there seems to be a circular aura around it to my way of seeing. Okay, once again we're getting a little partial blockage of the aperture for NGC 717, a galaxy in Andromeda that's plus 36 degrees in declination. It's magnitude 13.9, but very edgy, 1.3 by 0.2 arc minutes, which gives it about a 6:1 aspect ratio. Spiral, lowercase a, 229 million light years distant, and you can see the edge-on appearance right there, perfectly on the screen. Sweet. NGC 718, another galaxy in Pisces, brightish, magnitude 11.7, largish, 2.3 by 2.2 arc minutes, spiral with a bar in lowercase a mere 77 million light years distant, puts it at about 60,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 4 and change in terms of declination. You can see the bar of the galaxy with some aura around the outside. NGC 719's galaxy back in Aries. We're at plus almost 20 degrees in declination. Magnitude 13.2, 1.4 by 1.1 arc minutes, 404 million light years distant. This is a lenticular spiral that's larger than Messier 31, so it's probably somewhere around 170,000 light years in diameter, meaning it's very large, very massive, and quite bright. Here we have a very luminous NGC 720 galaxy in Cetus. This galaxy is magnitude 10.2, largish, 4.4 by 2.2 arc minute, 2:1 aspect ratio, distended football elliptical. It's an E4, 81 million light years distant. And given that size, I would say this is about 120,000 light years in diameter, which is quite large for an elliptical galaxy. We're at minus 13, almost 14 degrees in declination, and we are getting a really luminous view of this 10th magnitude galaxy. I was going to go to NGC 721 in Andromeda, but it was just simply too far north. Here we're being really seriously overpowered with what I would consider to be probably a second magnitude star, well, probably one of the brightest stars in Aries. This is NGC 722, which is a neighbor to that star, within about 5 or 6 arc minutes. It's magnitude 13.4, 1.7 by 0.5 arc minutes. You can see it's got a distended aspect ratio. Spiral with a lowercase bc, 222 million light years distant, means it's probably about 120,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus almost 21 degrees in declination. Wow. Here we're seeing NGC 723, which is also NGC 724. It's a galaxy in Cetus, magnitude 12.4, 1.5 by 1.3 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase bc, 64 million light years distant, so not particularly large, maybe about 35,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus 20, almost 24 degrees in declination. The galaxy is quite present in the center of the screen. Skipping NGC 724, which was also NGC 723, we're still in Cetus with a galaxy, magnitude 14.8 by 0.5 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase c. Very distant though, 468 million light years, puts it at about 130,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus 16.5 degrees in declination. We still have a ways to go to get to hour 2 and right ascension. I now have 2 bars left on the battery of the camera. NGC 726 is a galaxy in Cetus, magnitude 14, 2:1 aspect ratio, oblately presented 1.2 by 0.6 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase d, so it means probably some kind of disturbance in it. 239 million light years distant. We're at minus almost 11 degrees, 1 hour 55 minutes and 31 seconds. And a couple of stars in Cetus. We've now arrived at NGC 731, and my camera battery likes the idea of reducing the number of studies this evening. NGC 731 is a galaxy in Cetus. It's also 757, Brightish, magnitude 12.1, 1.7 by 1.7, pure elliptical, global elliptical, like a giant globular cluster, 174 million light years distant. Puts the size of this probably at something around 80,000 light years, which is quite large for an elliptical galaxy. We're at -9 degrees and 154.56 in right ascension. Okay, we're getting a little aperture block here at NGC 732. We're plus almost 37 degrees in declination for a galaxy in Andromeda. It's magnitude 13.5, 1.4 by 1 arc-minute spiral of the lenticular class, 266 million light years distant. This one is a little larger than our own Milky Way. It's probably about 110,000 light years across. So on to NGC 733 if it's accessible to us. NGC 733 is a galaxy in Triangulum. The only thing we know about it is that it's a 2 to 1 aspect ratio of 0.6 to 0.3 arc minutes. It's at plus 33 and change in declination. I am not seeing anything in particular on the screen. I'll have to look to see if there's any data on this, but it may very well be anomalous, but a nice starry region nonetheless. Well, it's now almost just a little past 9 o'clock, and this is a 16th magnitude galaxy. I'm looking at the sky. It is very dark. If we're seeing a 16th magnitude galaxy in Cetus, NGC 734, 0.7 by 0.4 arc minutes, that's a spiral with a bar of lenticular class with a lowercase a, 537 million light years distant, and we're looking at -17 degrees in declination and seeing a 16th magnitude galaxy. With confidence on that screen, I will be blown away by just how much of an improvement we get in our viewing when the sky is particularly clear and dark. My battery's about to run out. Carpe Noctem. I will finish this series on the next opportunity out. Okay, it's Saturday, January the 6th, 5 days before the new moon. The weather has been the weather around here. I haven't gotten much in the way of opportunity to do deep sky since the 1st of January. Poked my head out tonight and noticed that Jupiter is looking pretty good up there. I can see the brighter first magnitude stars. I can see the Pleiades. I'm going to have to set up the observatory. I need to run the 650 to 699 series of NGCs before the situation gets problematic with the sidereal clock. Fortunately, it only takes me about 2 minutes to set up the observatory. I can't tell you whether or not the conditions will remain throughout the evening, but I am going to make a run at it. I also need to finish up a series that I had started earlier. It's the 700 to 750 series. I managed to leap over 650 to 700, but I got about a little more than halfway through that 700 to 750 series. And it's been fortunate though, because I am putting together what I call Mathematica Galactica. And the first phase of it will be to discuss how you can determine, based on galaxy information, your scope size and sky conditions, whether or not you will get a decent view through your scope. Anyway, hang in there. Let's hope we get through this. All right, here we go. What you're seeing there is Hamel, Alpha Aries. Gives you an idea of where things should turn up. Hamel's fairly far north, so as things go south, we should see them drift off. The scope is looking east, thankfully, but it may have to do a flip later on in the evening. There's our first view. Let's see if we can pick up 891 before it progresses too far west. As you see, 891 is taking its appearance up in that part of the screen, which is not anywhere near Hamel, so maybe there's some stellar drift going on with the data associated with Hamel. Before I leave, I will probably center up on Hamel. I'm also noticing there's a good deal of light to dark drift across the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to improve the brightness. I've noticed that as you make the brightness go too low, you start to see that. Let's try brightness of 25 for the time being. NGC 891 is taking form there. I do want to read the data in because I'm doing that Mathematica Galactica, so I want to make sure I capture. NGC 891 is a galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 9.9, long 13.1, narrow 2.8 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase b, 29 million light years distant. We're at plus 42 degrees. I will center it up before I go looking for other galaxies. I'm still noticing a bit of a light to dark transition on the screen. I may play with that later on in the evening. Just a quick reference, this is where I'm now going to synchronize the scope to with NGC 891. And you know what, I think I may not have synchronized to Hamill, so that may not have been the issue, but I am going to synchronize to NGC 891. Unfortunately, NGC 650 and 651 were the beautiful M60, I believe it's M76 planetary nebula in Perseus. So we're not going to get a look, it was just too far north. So let's start off with NGC 652. I may be able to catch the planetary later, but I have to start, well, forget it now because, well, possibly later on this evening. We'll look for it because I'll probably have to do a scope flip. Anyway, this should be NGC 652, galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 13.6, 1 by 0.6 arc minute spiral with peculiarities, 239 million light years distant. We're at plus 8 degrees, right ascension 140.43. The galaxy is right about there. That is not a particularly good look, I'm surprised, for a 13.6 magnitude galaxy. NGC 653 is a partially blocked galaxy in Andromeda. It's magnitude 13.4. Edgy on 1.5 by 0.2 arc minutes. Spiral with a lowercase ab, 243 million light years distant. Is that plus 38? Plus 36, almost 35, almost 36 degrees north. I'm sorry I'm rushing a little bit here. The weather could collapse, but the galaxy is in a good part of the screen right there. NGC 655 is a galaxy in Cetus, the whale, magnitude 14, little sub-football shape, 1.4 by 0.9 arc minutes, a lenticular spiral class O, 390 million light years distant, makes it almost as large as Messier 31. I am not getting much of a view on the screen, although I'm seeing something faint right about there. We're at minus 13 degrees, so we've lost probably 2 magnitudes in terms of the intensity of its light, making it about a magnitude 16 view, and that's what I'm seeing. NGC 656 is a galaxy nicely positioned in Pisces. It's magnitude 13.4, but pretty much face on, 1.5 by 1.3 arc minute, spiral with a bar, lenticular, 178 million light years distant. We're at plus 26 and change in terms of declination, and I believe the galaxy is right about there. Could be a bit larger and brighter, but it's only 1.5 arc minutes across, so we're only really seeing the core and some fuzziness on this lenticular. NGC 658, another galaxy in Pisces, but further south and brighter. We're at plus 28 and a little plus 12 plus a little more than a half degrees. It's a magnitude 12.5 galaxy, largest 3 by 1.6 arc minute spiral with a lowercase b. So it's presenting oblately. It's 134 million light years distant, which puts it at about 130,000 light years in diameter, and the galaxy is quite visible there. The tip of my finger. We should be seeing a fairly large, brightish galaxy, and we are. The scope didn't make a tick at all, so I'm not sure what exactly happened there. NGC 660 is a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 11.2, 8 by 2.9 arc minutes, so that's about a 3-to-1 aspect ratio. Spiral with a bar and a lowercase a, and peculiarities, 41 million light years distant, puts it at probably about 110,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 13 and a little bit more than a half degrees, and we are actually getting a decent view of this one. First galaxy of the evening in Triangulum, NGC 661 is a galaxy, magnitude 12.2, 1.6 by 1.3 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, 174 million light years distant, means probably about 80,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus almost 29 degrees in declination, and the galaxy is quite present on the screen in the usual location for this evening. Definitely getting some blockage on NGC 662, galaxy in Andromeda at plus almost 38 degrees. It's magnitude 12.9, but smallish, 0.8 by 0.5 arc minutes, 256 million light years distant. This must be a pretty intense galaxy. It's just a spiral with a lowercase c. And as I said, we're almost at 38 degrees. We're probably blocking at least a third of the aperture of the scope, so don't expect too much out of this sub-13th magnitude size galaxy. We have been skipping over a number of NGCs. Most of those have all been open clusters in Cassiopeia, too far north. Here we are with NGC 664, galaxy in Pisces, brightish, magnitude 12.8, 1.5 by 1.3 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase b, 243 million light years distant, and we're at a little change more than 4 degrees northern declination. And I do see the galaxy. How about you? NGC 665 is a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 12.1, largish, 2.4 by 1.6 arc minutes, spiral of the lenticular class, 245 million light years distant, puts it about 160,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 10 and almost a half degrees in declination. Right ascension 1, 44, 56. The galaxy is quite present. This galaxy in Triangulum has a number that needs some redemption. It's NGC 666. Magnitude 13.4, 0.7 by 0.5 arc minutes, spiral with peculiarities, 217 million light years distant. So it's probably about 50,000 to 60,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 34 and change degrees. We are getting a little bit of scope blockage up there, probably even a little bit more than a little bit. But at least we got the data and some hints of what it might look like. We're going to lose some presence on NGC 667 as well, but not because the lens of the telescope is blocked partially, because we're very far south, almost minus 23 degrees for a galaxy in Cetus, faintish, magnitude 14.2, 0.6 by 0.5 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, but very distant, 531 million light years, puts it at about 85,000 light years in diameter. As mentioned, we're at almost minus 23 degrees in declination, and any view of this 14th magnitude galaxy would be intriguing. And the only way to tell whether we saw it is to watch the galaxy form on the screen as it formed. We've gone farther north than I would like to, but 36.5 degrees to NGC 668, galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 13.1. 1.8 by 1.2 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase b, 200 million light years distant, and we're about 36.5 degrees in declination. We probably lost half the aperture of the scope. Not too much further south from NGC 668 is 669, galaxy in Triangulum, magnitude 12.3. Nice, 3.1 by 0.6 arc minutes. Too bad we're not getting all the aperture on this one. Spiral with a lowercase ab, 215 million light years distant, puts it probably up around 180 to 190,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 35.5 degrees in declination. Let's just hope. I do believe I'm seeing it here, and we're getting some idea of its features. Not bad for losing half the aperture of the scope. Oh, here's a decent galaxy. It's a little further south at plus 28 degrees. We're at NGC 670, another galaxy in Triangulum. It's magnitude 12.7. Nice aspect ratio, 2.1 to 0.9. Lenticular spiral class O, 170 million light years distant, puts it at about 100,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 28 degrees, and I'm trying to determine whether we're getting any aperture block. If we are, it's only about an inch or so. Our first galaxy of the night in Aries, NGC 671, galaxy, magnitude 13.2, 3 to 1 aspect ratio, 1.5 to what? 3 to 1? spiral with peculiarities, 249 million light years distant. We're at plus 13 and change degrees, not a bad part of the sky, and the galaxy is quite present in showing extensions. About 10 degrees north of where we were just in Aries is NGC 672, and the galaxy is located in Triangulum. Bright and large. We're at plus 27.5 degrees. I do not think we're getting any aperture block. If we are, it's minimal. The galaxy is magnitude 10.9, 7.5 by 2.6 arc-minutes, spiral with a bar and a lowercase c. Look for that bar. A mere 22 million light years distant, but that puts it at probably about 50 to 60,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 27.5 degrees in declination. Hopefully we aren't losing too much aperture on this one because it's looking fairly intriguing. Although I'm seeing lots of splotching on the screen, probably due to water vapor dispersal of light in the atmosphere. Back further south into Aries for NGC 673 galaxy, magnitude 12.6, 2.1 by 1.7 arc-minutes, pretty much a football, spiral with a lowercase c. 233 million light years distant puts this at about the size of Messier 52 at about 150,000 light years. We're at plus 11.5 degrees. We're approaching, but not quite there yet, hour 2 in right ascension. NGC 674 is another galaxy in Aries, but further north. It's also NGC 697, magnitude 12, largish, 4.4 by 1.4 arc-minute. So it's probably about average surface brightness of about magnitude 14.5, spiral with a bar, lowercase bc, 140 million light years distant, probably about 175,000 light years in diameter. We are at plus 22 and change degrees north declination. And boy, we're not seeing much of this galaxy. I think the sky may be degrading at this point. I am seeing fuzziness on Jupiter. Sorry folks, I'm going to push through anyway, so at least we capture the data, because this may be the only night for a while. We're supposed to have a week of rain here in Grant County. Well folks, we're going to wrap it for this evening. Maybe it'll clear up, but I doubt it. We're at NGC 675, another galaxy in Aries. It's magnitude 15.5. We're not going to see much of anything. I'm not even seeing stars. All we're getting here are artifacts on the screen. It's a magnitude 15.5, 1 by 0.4 arc-minute, spiral with peculiarities, 239 million light years distant. We're at plus 13 degrees, and we haven't quite gotten... Oh, this one's thrown back a little bit. 1 hour, 49 minutes, and 8 seconds in declination. It's knockoff time, folks. Carpe. Well, let's take a look at 891 just so we can see how really bad it is. Well, it's doubtful we'll see anything of 891. We're getting aperture block. There's high, thin clouds. Remember, I noticed earlier that we were starting to get speckling on the screen from reflective light. I think I'm seeing a little bit of nebulosity there, but I'll give it 10 seconds or so, and then I'm going to knock off, cross my fingers, and hope that things do improve. Maybe this is temporary. It doesn't look as bad to the east, but that simply means the weather is blowing in from the west. Carpe noctem.